Welcome to the Last Economy Podcast, a guide to the age of intelligent economics. Today, we're embarking on a crucial journey through Chapter 6 of the book, which is titled The Engine of Order, Intelligence Against Entropy. Now, if the previous chapters were mainly about dismantling the myths of old economics, this is really the foundation of the new.
That's right.
It's where the book kind of stops talking about human assumptions and starts talking about the actual physical laws of the universe.
Yeah, exactly. The hard physics.
Yeah. So our mission today is to take this really profound, almost philosophical concept, this whole cosmic struggle against decay, and, well, translate it into concrete, maybe even actionable economic insight for you. We're moving away from just perceived value, you see, towards the physical laws that govern all value creation.
And that's the key shift.
Right. So the chapter is really asking, if the universe wants everything to fall apart, how is it that ordered, complex systems like, economies and corporations, how do they even manage to persist?
That's the fundamental question. And to really grasp the age of intelligent economics, we absolutely must understand this basic physical challenge, the one that every single economic entity faces.
Okay.
The conventional models of economics, the ones we've all learned based on scarcity, human preference, well, they were built on a kind of intellectual fault line.
How so?
They essentially ignored the relentless universal power of the second law of thermodynamics, entropy.
Right, just pretended it wasn't there.
Pretty much. So we're here today to establish that the primary conflict-defining value isn't really, say, Coke versus Pepsi. It's the inherent struggle of any ordered system against decay, against entropy.
Okay, let's dive into that then. Second one is all about this universe's default. So let's unpack this concept that, as you say, dictates all life and death in the cosmos, the second law of thermodynamics. The book calls it the supreme brutal rule. For those of us, maybe like me, who haven't really thought about physics since, well, maybe college.
Yeah.
Can you anchor us? What does entropy fundamentally mean?
Sure. Entropy is, it's the universe's one constant, you could say. It's the measure of disorder, of randomness, or just plain decay in any system.
Okay.
And the second law states, pretty unequivocally, that the entropy of a closed system must always increase. It has to.
Always, no exceptions.
In a truly closed system, no. Everything tends toward chaos. It's just a one-way street. The book is absolutely right to quote the great physicist Arthur Eddington here. He famously called it the supreme law of nature. There's just no getting around it.
Wow. Okay. Can you give us an example, maybe?
Yeah, think about this. You build a sandcastle on the beach.
Right.
That's a complex, ordered structure you've made.
Done that?
The moment you walk away, what happens? The ocean, the wind, gravity, they immediately start working to erase it.
Yeah, it never lasts long.
Exactly. They're trying to return those carefully organized grains of sand back to a state of just random, uniform dispersion. That's entropy in action. It's that simple and that profound.
So stars burning out, mountains crumbling.
Yep, and your company's profit margins are eroding over time if you don't actively fight it. This law, the book calls it the ultimate tax on existence, and it's always, always being levied.
In traditional economics, the models we relied on for 200 years, they basically just wrote a zero on that tax form.
Yeah, right.
Pretended this universal decay didn't exist or was, negligible.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. They operated in this kind of frictionless vacuum, conceptually speaking.
Right.
They modeled perfect equilibrium, perpetual growth, assuming order was just the default state, and decay was, something easily managed by maintenance budgets or innovation.
But that's not reality.
Not at all. In reality, every single time a good is produced, every time information is processed, you actually increase the overall disorder of the universe, even if you temporarily decrease it locally, like inside your factory or your spreadsheet.
So there's always a cost somewhere else.
Always. And the profound implication here is this. If we want to build an economics that's actually physically grounded, truly based in reality.
Which we do.
Right. Then we have to define value, not just by what humans desire, but by what physically resists this decay.
Okay.
Economic activity isn't just trade or making stuff. Fundamentally, it's an expenditure of effort and energy specifically designed to create these temporary pockets of order in a universe that wants chaos.
So we have to kind of throw out those softer assumptions. The rational actor, the idea that value just springs from scarcity alone.
We have to, or at least put them in their proper context, subordinate to the physics.
Okay. And root ourselves in something undeniable, like this law. The book introduces this philosophical shift with a really powerful quote from Einstein. Let me read the corrected text here. Okay. Quote 1. The whole of science is nothing more than a refinement of everyday thinking.
That quote, it just sets the stage perfectly for what the book calls intelligence theory.
How so?
It tells us we aren't inventing some completely new philosophy out of thin air. We're simply refining a very basic everyday observation. Things fall apart.
Right. We see it all the time.
But successful systems like, say, persistent companies or complex biological life, they don't just fall apart. They resist. They persist.
Okay.
The refinement, the scientific part, comes when we realize why they resist. It's not just luck. It's not some mystical human will. It's a physical capability.
A capability to do what?
To create order more efficiently than the surrounding environment erodes it. We're grounding economics in the very same physical laws that dictate how stars form or how microbes survive.
Wow.
We're moving past those convenient fictions of old economics and asking a much deeper question. What physical capability allows a system to persist in this fundamentally entropic universe?
And the answer, according to the book?
The answer the book argues for, compellingly, I think, is intelligence.
Intelligence. Okay. So that brings us to how intelligence actually does this. How does it create this order? All right. So if entropy, this tendency towards chaos, is the universal default, how does intelligence actually, manifest? How does it create this crucial temporary order the book talks about?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
The book takes us way back to 1867. James Clerk Maxwell's famous thought experiment, the demon. This feels like where the physics lesson really becomes the economics lesson.
It absolutely is. It's a brilliant conceptual bridge.
Okay, so paint the picture for us. Maxwell imagined this box of gas, right? And it's at uniform temperature, maximum entropy, meaning it's totally disordered, the same everywhere.
Correct. Complete equilibrium, no useful energy gradients.
And then there's this tiny demon, a hypothetical intelligent being, guarding a little door dividing the box in half.
Right. And this demon is clever. It can see and measure the speed of every single molecule that approaches the door.
Okay, what does it do?
It sorts them. If a fast, hot molecule approaches from the left side, zip, it opens the door, lets it through to the right side. If a slow, cold molecule approaches from the right side, same thing. It opens the door, lets it pass to the left.
So it's actively separating the fast from the slow.
Relentlessly. And through this simple, focused process of sorting, the demon creates a gradient. One side of the box becomes hot, full of high-energy molecules, highly ordered in a sense, and the other side becomes cold, low energy, low order.
So it created order out of chaos.
Precisely. It generated a highly ordered system, a massive temperature difference starting from uniform randomness. And that gradient, that difference, that is useful energy. That is potential value.
Okay, I see the physics. Now the leap to economics.
Here it is, and it's profound. The book argues that every successful act of economic value creation is fundamentally an act of sorting.
Every act.
Every single one. Think about it. The entrepreneur, the manager, the investor, they are all intelligent agents. They are all, in effect, Maxwell's demons.
And the market.
The market itself is that chaotic box of gas. It's full of randomly distributed resources, information, needs, talents, capital.
That analogy really clicks. We always talk about entrepreneurs, say, identifying market inefficiencies.
Yeah.
But hearing you explain it, inefficiency isn't just a human concept here, is it? It's actual thermodynamic chaos.
You got it. The market is just this dispersion of stuff. Raw potential, but disorganized. The demon's job, the entrepreneur's job, is to impose order on that chaos.
By sorting.
By sorting. When an entrepreneur builds a successful business, what are they doing? They are sorting the fast molecules. These are the high potential opportunities, the undervalued assets, the essential skills hidden in the labor pool, the unmet customer needs that are just crying out for a solution.
And pull those together.
They pull them together, structure them, create a highly ordered system, the company. And just as importantly, they are simultaneously sorting out the slow molecules, the waste, the unnecessary friction, the bureaucratic red tape, the mediocre performance, and actively pushing them away or filtering them out.
So the company itself, it's not just a legal thing or a way to make money. It's actually a physics phenomenon. This temporary, highly concentrated pocket of incredible low entropy.
That's the core idea. A pocket maintained against the constant pressure of market chaos, trying to dissolve it back into uniformity.
Wow.
And because this sorting is the definition of value creation in this framework, the book offers a new definition of profit, one that's anchored in this physical reality. This is a huge departure from, profit as just surplus value or return on capital in the old sense.
Let's get that definition clear. This is quote 2 from the chapter. Profit is the temporary surplus of low entropy an intelligent agent can create before the cost of its own thinking catches up.
That sentence right there, that's arguably the central economic principle of this new age described in the book. Profit isn't just revenue minus accounting costs, it's a physical surplus of order.
Okay.
It's the measurable outcome of how successful your sorting mechanism, your company, your strategy was at creating that low entropy state.
And why temporary? You mentioned that. Why is the surplus temporary?
Good question. Two main reasons based on what we've discussed.
Yeah.
First, the market itself is inherently entropic.
The sandcastle effect again.
Exactly. Competitors see your ordered structure, your profit gradient, and they rush in to copy it, to arbitrage it away, trying to equalize things, like the gas in Maxwell's box trying to return to a uniform temperature.
Makes sense. Competition erodes profit.
Right. But second, and this is the really critical part linking back to the demon, is that phrase, before the cost of its own thinking catches up.
The demon's cost.
The demon had to think, it had to process information to sort those molecules. And as we'll see, that thinking, that intelligence, it isn't free. It has a physical cost.
So the demon initially looked like it was breaking the second law, creating order for free.
Right, a paradox.
But only because we weren't accounting for the cost of its own intelligence running the sorting operation.
Precisely. And we absolutely need to follow that thread. What is the true physical cost of intelligence? Because if profit is the reward for successful sorting,
Creating low entropy.
then the cost of the intelligence doing the sorting fundamentally defines the upper limit of that profit. It dictates the efficiency of the whole process.
Okay, so the cost of thinking itself becomes a core economic factor. Let's explore that. All right, so for almost a century, Maxwell's demon was this kind of beautiful but troubling theoretical anomaly. If the demon could sort molecules without any cost, it seemed to break the second law of thermodynamics.
It was a real puzzle for physicists, yeah.
They suspected the demon had to be doing some kind of work, some computational work maybe. What was the big breakthrough that finally resolved this paradox? And in doing so, tied information and thought directly to a real physical cost.
That breakthrough came much later, actually, in 1961. It was thanks to Rolf Landauer, a physicist working at IBM at the time.
IBM. Interesting.
Yeah, he realized the hidden cost wasn't in observing the molecules, but in the information processing required, specifically in managing the memory of the demon.
The demon's memory.
Think about it. To do its job, the demon has to measure the speed and position of a molecule, remember that information briefly to decide whether to open the door, and then, crucially, it has to forget or erase that memory to make room for the next measurement. Okay. It can't have infinite memory.
Exactly. And Landauer proved mathematically that every irreversible act of computation and the most fundamental irreversible act is erasing a single bit of information. Like resetting a switch from 1 back to 0 has an absolute irreducible thermodynamic cost.
A cost in what?
It must dissipate a tiny but fixed amount of heat into the surrounding environment. It generates entropy.
Wow. So erasing information creates disorder.
Yes. The very act of clearing memory, of forgetting, generates heat and increases entropy. So the decrease in entropy the demon creates inside the box by sorting the molecules is always mathematically equaled or exceeded by the increase in entropy generated outside the box by the heat dissipated from its own computation and memory erasure. The books have to balance, thermodynamically speaking.
That is, wow. That makes the stakes incredibly clear. Intelligence, the very thing that resists chaos and creates order,
is itself fundamentally constrained by the law of chaos. The ability to think always generates a thermodynamic cost. Sorting isn't free because thinking isn't free. Thinking literally dissipates heat.
That realization is the absolute linchpin. It's the bridge connecting physics directly to economics and even to evolution.
How so?
Well, if intelligence is costly, thermodynamically costly, then persistent, ordered systems, whether we're talking about DNA surviving over millennia, a complex human brain developing consciousness, or a multi-billion-dollar corporation staying profitable for decades, they must be highly efficient at managing that cost.
They can't afford wasteful thinking.
Exactly. They aren't just lucky survivors. The book calls them learners. Systems that have, through evolution or competition, figured out the most efficient processes for creating the necessary order while minimizing that inherent thermodynamic cost of thinking and deciding.
Okay. And the book formalizes this observation into its core scientific framework, right? Intelligence theory.
Yes. Intelligence theory, or IT. It moves beyond the limitations of classical economics by embedding this competition, this drive for efficiency, right into the physical laws. It's not just about market share, it's about thermodynamic viability.
Okay, let me read the formal definition provided for IT. This is important. Intelligence theory, IT. The economy as a complex adaptive system evolves to favor configurations that are most efficient at creating predictive models of their environment.
See the shift.
Yeah, it completely changes the goalpost. It's not about maximizing widgets produced or satisfying some abstract human utility. It's about maximizing predictive efficiency, making the best map of reality for the lowest energy cost.
Precisely. How good is your system at anticipating the future, and how much energy does it burn to do that?
So how does this drive for efficiency actually manifest in, say, economic terms? How do we see it play out?
It manifests through three fundamental, unavoidable, irreducible costs. Costs that every single intelligent agent, from a single neuron firing in your brain to a global hedge fund's trading algorithm, must constantly strive to minimize if it wants to persist.
Okay.
These are the three core components of the sorter's total effort, its total thermodynamic burden, and they basically define the competitive landscape of the intelligent economy.
What are they?
Okay, first you have predictive error. The book often uses the variable h. This is simply the cost of being wrong.
Makes sense.
If your internal model of the world, your predictions, are inaccurate, you make bad decisions. You invest in the wrong stock, you launch a product nobody wants, you get blindsided by a market shift. Every wrong prediction, every mistake is essentially wasted energy, wasted sorting effort that increases entropy instead of decreasing it.
So minimizing H means constantly driving towards greater accuracy, better forecasting, better data.
Yes, you need an accurate map of the territory.
Can we use a real-world example? Maybe something simple.
Sure. Think about retail inventory, a classic problem. If a retailer's predictive model accurately forecasts high demand for, say, raincoats next season, meaning they have low H for that prediction, they order the right amount of stock, they meet demand, sell through, capture value, low entropy, created efficiently.
Okay.
But if their model is wrong, high H, and they predict sunshine when it pours, they're left with racks of unsold summer dresses. That unsold inventory is pure disorder from an economic perspective. They have to mark it down, liquidate it at a loss. The high cost of H directly translates into financial loss, wasted resources.
Got it. That makes H very concrete. What's the second cost?
The second is model complexity, often denoted as C. This is the literal physical cost of running the sorting mechanism. It's the energy consumption, the processing power, the infrastructure needed to operate your intelligent model, whatever it is.
So the cost of the brain itself, whether it's neurons or silicon or a management team.
Exactly. Think about it in organizational terms. If your corporate structure is incredibly complex, requires 50 layers of management approval for a simple decision, or relies on ancient energy-guzzling mainframe computers from the 80s, your C cost is enormous.
Right. It takes a lot of energy just to keep the lights on and the gears turning.
A huge amount. Compare that to, say, a lean startup. They might minimize C by using cloud-native architecture that scales efficiently, flat organizational hierarchies for faster decisions. Their thinking process is just inherently cheaper to run.
At a legacy bank, for instance.
A legacy bank often has massive C costs. Just maintaining and operating its decades-old IT infrastructure, its complex bureaucracy, that high C cost eats away at any potential surplus of low entropy they might create. It makes their collective intelligence slow, cumbersome, and energetically very expensive.
That perfectly illustrates why speed and simplicity aren't just, nice management buzzwords. In this framework, they're thermodynamically superior. They lower C.
Precisely. Lowering C is crucial for efficiency.
Okay, so we have H, cost of being wrong, and C, cost of thinking. What's the third one?
The third, and this one is often the most underestimated, is update cost. Let's call it K. This is the energy, the resources, the friction involved in changing the model. It's the cost of learning, adapting, and restructuring when the environment changes.
The cost of adaptation.
Exactly. How much effort does it take for your intelligent system to rewrite its internal map, its strategies, its processes, when something unexpected happens? A pandemic hits, a disruptive technology emerges from a competitor, customer preferences shift dramatically.
Right. How quickly can you pivot?
And what does that pivot cost? For human-based systems, particularly large organizations, K can be absolutely massive.
Give us an example.
Consider a large established automaker trying to pivot from gasoline cars to electric vehicles. It's a huge challenge, right?
Absolutely.
They have deeply entrenched manufacturing plants designed for engines and transmissions. They have a workforce whose skills are primarily in internal combustion. They have decades of sunk capital in existing technologies and supply chains. Making that shift to EV requires enormous investment, retraining, retooling. That whole process represents an incredibly high update cost, a high K.
While a newer company.
Right. Compare that to a nimble competitor, maybe one born digital, like Tesla arguably was in the beginning. They started with a relatively blank slate focused on EVs. Their K for adapting within the EV paradigm or even making the initial choice was much, much lower. They could adapt faster because the cost of changing their model was less prohibitive.
So, putting it all together, the most persistent, the most successful systems in this view aren't just the ones that are accurate today, low H.
No, that's not enough.
They also need to be able to maintain that accuracy using the leanest possible thinking machinery, low C, and have the built-in ability to pivot rapidly and cheaply when the world changes, low K.
That's the trifecta. You need to be accurate, cheap to run, and adaptable. H, C, and K. Minimizing all three is the name of the game.
This really does shift our understanding of what makes a business successful, doesn't it? It stops being just about brand recognition or market share and starts being about fundamental thermodynamic efficiency. How well does your organization think relative to the energy it consumes?
That's the core of intelligence theory as applied to economics. It's a completely different lens.
And now we have to apply this lens to the biggest disruptor of all, artificial intelligence. Okay, so we've established these universal principles of intelligence theory, this relentless drive to minimize predictive error, H, model complexity, C, and update cost, K.
The thermodynamic imperatives for any intelligence system that wants to stick around.
Right. And now we have to take that framework and apply it to what the book describes as the single greatest shift in economic history, the arrival of advanced silicon-based intelligence, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, this is where the theory meets the present and the implications become, well, staggering.
For pretty much all of history, the most powerful sorting agent on this planet was the human brain.
Right. Undoubtedly, we built civilizations, science, art. We're amazing biological sorting machines.
But as the book points out, our ability to generate order, our efficiency in minimizing H, C, and K was always constrained by our biology. We're slow, we die, and thermodynamically. We're actually quite expensive compared to what's emerging now.
That biological constraint is absolutely key. The book highlights this really effectively with a comparison that drives home what it calls the metabolic rift between biological and silicon intelligence. Let me share quote 3 with you.
Okay, hit us with it. The human brain runs on about 20 watts. It took billions of years to evolve, and its cognitive architecture is fixed. We can learn more, but we cannot fundamentally upgrade our own processing power. The silicon agent's intelligence is uncapped.
Let's break that down, that 20 watts figure. It's incredibly efficient for the complex tasks our brain performs, don't get me wrong. Evolution did an amazing job. But we are fundamentally metabolically capped. We need sleep, we need food, water, the right temperature, constant biological maintenance.
Right, high C cost in a way.
A very high C cost just to exist. And K, our update cost is also constrained. We can learn new things, yes, but we can't just decide to install a faster processing unit in our heads. We can't instantly copy our knowledge and skills perfectly to another person. Our core hardware is fixed.
But silicon intelligence, AI, it's different.
Totally different. It's non-metabolic in the human sense. Yes, it needs electricity, often a lot of it, but it doesn't need food or sleep. Its upkeep is different. And crucially, its cognitive architecture isn't fixed.
What do you mean?
AI is subject to recursive self-improvement. And AI can analyze its own performance, identify inefficiencies in its algorithms or architecture, and then redesign itself to become better, faster, more efficient at sorting. Its intelligence isn't just learned, it can be fundamentally upgraded. It's uncapped potential.
So AI isn't just another clever tool like the steam engine or the internet.
No, the book argues it's much more fundamental than that.
It's positioned as the ultimate perfect sorting machine, almost perfectly designed from a physics perspective to minimize those three costs, H, C, and K, at a scale that biological agents like us simply cannot dream of matching.
That's the core argument. Let's look at AI's specific advantages through that HCK lens.
Okay, let's do it. What's the first big advantage?
First, AI combines superhuman speed with incredible thermodynamic efficiency. This is a direct assault on C, model complexity cost.
How so?
AI processes information literally at the speed of light or close to it within the chip, and the energy cost per logical operation per single calculation in modern silicon. It's trillions, literally trillions of times lower than the metabolic cost of a similar operation in a human brain neuron.
Trillions, that's hard to even comprehend.
It is. So an AI can run a vastly more complex predictive model, which helps it reduce H, the error rate, while simultaneously incurring almost negligible model complexity cost, C, compared to a team of human analysts. Imagine a financial analyst who never sleeps, never eats, never takes a vacation, makes no calculation errors, and performs a year's worth of human analysis in maybe a minute. That's the kind of C cost reduction we're talking about.
Okay, massive reduction in C, potential reduction in H through complexity. What's next?
The second huge advantage is perfect scalability. And this one just completely shatters the traditional economic assumption that skilled labor or expert intelligence is scarce.
How does that relate to the costs?
It absolutely demolishes the update cost, especially for deployment and expansion. Think about it. You can invest heavily to train one extremely sophisticated, highly efficient AI sorting model.
Okay.
Once you have that model, you can copy it instantly. 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times across your entire global operation at virtually zero marginal cost. If a new market opportunity suddenly opens up halfway across the world, what does a traditional human-run company have to do? They need to hire new people, train them, maybe build new offices, integrate them into the existing structure. It takes months, maybe years, and costs millions. That's a massive K, a huge update cost to deploy their intelligence into that new area.
Right. Very slow, very expensive adaptation.
An AI native company, they potentially just hit copy-paste. They deploy their best sorting algorithm to the new data set, the new region, almost instantaneously. Their ability to update their strategy and redeploy their intelligence across the entire system drives K towards zero. The friction of scaling intelligence disappears.
Instant scalability, attacking K, that's huge. Is there a third advantage?
Yes, and it relates to persistence. AI is essentially immortal in an operational sense.
Immortal.
Well, it doesn't forget due to biological decay. It doesn't die. It doesn't suffer from fatigue or cognitive biases in the same way humans do. An AI model, properly maintained, can execute its sorting function consistently, 24/7, 365, indefinitely.
So it can maintain that low entropy gradient, that ordered state, much more reliably than a human-run business.
Which is always vulnerable to key people leaving, institutional memory loss, changes in leadership.
Exactly. It removes a whole layer of biological fragility and inconsistency from the sorting process. It offers predictable, persistent, low entropy maintenance.
Okay, so superhuman speed and efficiency, low C. Perfect scalability, low K. Potential for lower error, low H. And immortality.
When you introduce an agent into the economic system that possesses these capabilities, an agent that can minimize H, C, and K at rates potentially trillions of times better than the incumbent intelligent agents, which are humans and the organizations we built around our biological limitations, the entire structure of the economy has to change. It must yield. The old rules, the rules that govern economic success for centuries, rules implicitly built around the high costs and limitations of biological intelligence, they just become obsolete overnight. It sounds less like an upgrade and more like a fundamental rewiring of reality itself. The book uses a very specific, very physical term for this level of disruption, doesn't it? This is the final quote. Quote 4. The arrival of AI is not just another technological shift. It is a phase transition in the efficiency of entropy reduction.
That phrase, phase transition, is absolutely critical to understanding the argument.
Explain that. What does phase transition mean here?
Think about water changing to ice, or water changing to steam. It's not just that the water gets colder or hotter. It undergoes a fundamental change in its structure, its state. Ice behaves completely differently from liquid water. Steam behaves completely differently again. They have different physical properties, follow different rules in a sense.
A change in state, not just degree.
Precisely. The book argues AI isn't just making us colder or hotter economically. It's triggering a phase transition in the fundamental physics of economic life. The rate at which order can be created from chaos, the efficiency of entropy reduction, has accelerated so violently, so fundamentally with AI.
That the old structures can't keep up.
They simply can't survive in their current form. The old, slow, metabolically expensive, high-friction structures of the traditional economy were adapted to a world dominated by biological intelligence. They are like trying to build a house out of liquid water when the temperature drops below freezing. The environment has fundamentally changed state.
So the system will just naturally reorder itself.
It has to. It will inevitably reorder itself according to the logic of the new dominant sorting mechanism, the massively superior thermodynamic efficiency of silicon intelligence.
So if economic value is ultimately about creating low entropy, creating order, and AI is by far the most efficient anti-entropic machine ever conceived,
Yeah.
then the economy is just going to naturally funnel resources, opportunities, and ultimately control towards the agents and the configurations, the companies, the systems that are best able to leverage AI's sorting power.
That's the stark conclusion. It implies the end of economics as we've known it for the last 200 years, a complete paradigm shift driven by physics.
Wow, okay. That's a lot to take in. Let's try and summarize this whole chapter. #tag outro. So we've journeyed quite a distance today, haven't we? From the heat death of the universe all the way down to the operating cost of a single microchip.
We covered some ground, yeah.
And the whole point was to ground the entire nature of economic value creation in fundamental physics.
We move beyond assumptions and look at the underlying laws.
Right. So if we had to boil down Chapter 6's main argument into just one single powerful sentence, for you, the listener, I think it would be this. Value is not a pre-existing substance, but a state of low entropy, a temporary victory against chaos, achieved by intelligent agents sorting their environment.
That captures it perfectly, order created against the tide.
And for you, listening and trying to navigate this massive transition, what are the key takeaways? The core nuggets of knowledge we've extracted from this deep dive into Chapter 6.
Okay, let's list them out. 4 key things to remember. First, the most fundamental law governing economics isn't supply and demand, it's the second law of thermodynamics, entropy. All economic activity is ultimately shaped by the struggle against universal decay.
Got it. Physics first.
Second, all economic value creation, at its root, is an anti-entropic act of sorting. It's about creating gradients of order from the chaos of the market, just like Maxwell's demon sorting molecules in the box.
Okay. Value sorting.
Third, intelligence theory reframes economics as essentially a physics problem about efficiency. The success of any persistent system, a business, an organism, is defined by its drive to minimize 3 irreducible costs: predictive error, H, model complexity, C, and update cost, K.
The HCK framework.
All right. And fourth, and this is the big one for today, AI represents a phase transition in the efficiency of creating that order. It's not just another tool. It's fundamentally changing the thermodynamic landscape, shattering the old economic paradigm that was built for the high costs and low efficiency of biologically constrained intelligence.
A phase transition. That's the term to remember.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we've established the why. We've explored the physical imperatives, the thermodynamic reasons driving this massive economic change.
The physics behind persistence and value.
Exactly. But the next obvious question is, how? How exactly does this hyper-efficient intelligence actually manifest? How does it build the structures, the products, the services of the new economy? We've established that the ultimate intelligent agent sorts, but what algorithm, what process does it use to do that sorting, especially when it comes to creating novel solutions?
What's the mechanism of creation?
Right. That brings us directly to the next chapter, Chapter 7, which is titled The Generative Engine. So next time we'll dig into how the economy, and now AI within it, utilizes a kind of universal creative algorithm. Interestingly, the book suggests it's the same core algorithm that powers advanced AI models like the ones making headlines today.
Turning chaos into structured outputs.
Exactly. How it turns that chaos not just into sorted piles, but into ordered, structured, predictable, and even novel systems. And understanding that generative process, the book claims, will set the stage for defining the actual laws and landscapes of the intelligent economy.
Looking forward to that one.
Me too. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the physics of economic order. We hope it gave you a new lens to view the changes happening all around us. We'll see you next time on the Last Economy Podcast.